Join us weekdays. Check out all the latest updates on talkingheads-podcast.com.
And welcome to Bali, welcome to Thailand, and of course, welcome to the land of fun down here in Asia. And at the top of the table today, Bobby Pars. How you doing, man?
My name is Bobby.
Bobby. How you doing? Mission Control?
I'm doing good. I'm totally excited about Danny.
It's warm in the studio today, isn't it?
And Matthew's here too.
Matthew's here as well.
Got some special treats coming.
Danny, Woody, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How do you like the living room?
I love this place.
We
I get to see. I've only seen it on my phone, so now that I'm here live, it's nice.
It's nice, isn't it? It's pretty comfortable. I mean, it's we try and make people feel at ease today. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to take it nice and easy today. It's a relaxed situation, and relaxed as ever. Look at this at the end of the table. He is so prepared, this man. Matthew Kelly, welcome to the studio.
Oh, thank you.
How you doing? All right?
Doing great. Yeah, always a pleasure to be here.
It's always nice to see you guys in. I mean, it's nice to get talent in the studio. There's an array of talent in this studio today. I can feel the vibes, can't we, Bobby? Yeah?
The vibes are here.
The vibes are here. Danny, from California, I mean, what was it like over there?
In what year?
Let's take you. Sorry, I'll take you back to the beginnings. Born in California, yes?
Yes, absolutely. Born in California.
Schooling?
I went to elementary school at Vine Street Elementary School in Hollywood.
Hollywood and Vine.
Yeah, Hollywood and Vine.
Wow.
I lived with my grandmother. I was taken over to my grandmother's house. I'm the kind of guy that never had a father. So my mother had a fight with her second husband, E.B. Ebersol, and then she moved us. She moved me. She left my other brothers and sisters, and we left. And I ended up with my grandmother, the love of my life, Doris Brown. So I really was sorry to leave my brothers and sisters. Felt bad about it, but I was
How many?
3 at the time. But I'm the older brother of 8.
8.
She filled up the family later in life.
TV broken?
Well, it was a different era back in those days.
I'm sure it was. I mean, what about the music scene itself? I mean, how did you pull yourself into that sort of like, I want to do this kind of thing?
Well, actually, as a young boy, I loved Bo Diddley, and I had a little record player. I had a 45 RPM record collection with the little round fat thing in the middle. But Elvis Presley, Bo Diddley, Big Bopper, all those early Patsy Cline, or all those early superstars, I loved them.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people mention those names, Matthew, because over the years I've interviewed a lot of like musicians, and those names always crop up. I mean, Elvis on the Sun label, as you remember. I mean, the great era, yes.
Well, the Sun label, you can't. That was unbeatable.
Yeah,
great stuff.
That was like the thing, and you just mentioned the little thing in the middle of the 45. Which a lot of people don't remember that, there used to be like a little thing that you could pop out on the 45, and you used to get like this center where they used to put them on. You remember the old jukeboxes? They used to click out the center. And they used to have
a jukebox.
Yeah, I mean, wow, the Wurlitzer and all those kind of things. I mean, they were really cool.
But you have to mention Connie Francis and Brenda Lee.
Brenda Lee.
I mean, I still listen to Brenda Lee singing All Alone Am I. Or Connie Francis. I mean, and Connie Francis at the time had a crush on Bobby Darin, and they never got together.
Bobby Darin was Mac the Knife, Bobby Darin.
Yeah, Mac the Knife.
Yeah.
Bobby Darin was the swingin'est white boy that ever hit the planet, and later on, I think he started partaking in the weed or something because he moved away from all that fabulous jazz and started playing guitar and harmonica. And moved into another thing and wanted to stay there, but the public wanted to hear Mac the Knife. And,
but he was great. I mean, when Bobby Darin was doing all that, Mac the Knife and all those Under the Sea, I mean, wow.
It's hard to beat that.
I mean, why would you want to change, Danny? Why would you want to change, guys?
Well, people do change, they do change, and sometimes radically so. But, yeah, why would you change? Because he had it all. He had it all.
Do you think he was being directed by other people, or
No.
do you think it was just his feeling that that's what he wanted to do?
I think it was drugs.
Okay, all right, that's fair comment.
Because a lot of times, back in those days, they changed a lot of people, and a lot of people went down behind him also. But Bobby Darin was a handsome man.
Yep.
He was an extremely talented human being. He had a wonderful voice, and some of his jazz ballads that he sang are unbelievable.
One of my favorite artists, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I've missed. I mean, Mac the Knife is so classical, and the tempo and the way it's sung is just incredible.
And then they did the movie on him, which
Yeah.
I felt was just nothing.
Didn't do him any
It
justice.
didn't do him any justice
No.
for the great that he was. And he was one of the powerhouses in that era of music.
Absolutely, he was a very big cog in the wheel of music in those days. Underrated as well in the film. I didn't like the film at all, but there we go. That's what happens in life, doesn't it? It says on here. I mean, Bobby's put me a couple of things down because I'm going to try and help you guys out. It says, did you do the surf music thing?
I didn't. I danced to it. You know, I'm
What
an
is
old
it? What is the
surfer.
surf music thing?
Surf music. You had
Beach
Dick
Boys.
Dale. You had the Ventures.
Okay.
The Beach Boys were definite surf music.
Okay.
But you know, listen. Back in those days, I grew up at the beach, and I was surfing in 1962. There was nobody in the water. It was just me and my friends, and we surfed. I mean, I feel like in my life I have been through the greatest periods in America, because in those days we could surf a place like Malibu, and there wasn't hardly anybody in the water. Malibu would be the most crowded, but there was a place called Rincon, they called it Ventura County Line, and actually Santa Barbara County Line, and still I meditate. And so if I have trouble meditating, I think about that beach, and I'm able to meditate.
You got your spot.
Or I think about Malibu, because to me, that's like where the Indians used to live or something. It's hollow ground. It really is. And when you paddle out in the morning, me as I'm a 16-year-old kid coming from a war household and paddling out, and you turn around and you look at the sun coming up in these mountains. It's like it's the first thing spiritual that I ever knew.
I mean, have you done surfing before, Matthew? Did you go for that kind of thing?
Not on a board actually,
No.
but I did a lot of body surfing, and I got on some big waves, but not on a board. The problem with surfing for me was a lot of times you get out there, and the surfers would be very territorial, and so it was a bit intimidating, you know. And a lot of guys got actually beat up, you know, if you got on their surf. So, I mean,
Yeah.
but you're lucky because you didn't
No,
have.
Well, you had nobody
wasn't
around.
in that. I wasn't in that era.
Yeah.
You know, and
You had the ocean to yourself, didn't you?
Well, not only that, but I was working for a guy at the time, because I lived on Avenue 51 in Venice, and on Avenue 49 was Dewey Weber's surf shop. So I worked for Dewey Weber. I was his ding repairman, but Dewey Weber was like the Mick Jagger of surfers. I mean, and he would take me to the beach. I'd go to the beach with him and this guy named Iggy, who was a famous Hawaiian guy that did all this shaping. And, you know, it's like showing up with the Rolling Stones when you showed up with him. And I was on his competition team. It was just an amazing experience. But people were loving in the water. They weren't hateful. Now, I've been surfing since, and like Matthew was talking about, they're very territorial and they're very hateful. Well, they were at Topanga Canyon. That beach, I got punched out down there once. You know, that was a nasty beach. They had the Science Brothers that controlled the turf over there.
I mean, I can remember seeing that. I can remember looking at the if you remember the Hawaii 5-0, the surfboard there, the Beach Boys. I don't know who was the guy that sang "The Night Has 1,000 Stars." Who was that? Who was that? "Hold the night as 1,000 stars."
I know the song,
Yeah,
but I
there was a
can't
surfboard
remember.
in that. That's the only 3 occasions I can remember in my life that I've seen surfboards, because I'm not from
no.
I'm not from your territory. He's a surfboard man, though, aren't you?
Well, I'm kind of, I believe, I relate to what Matthew's saying about the vibe out there. Sometimes the vibe out there is a little harsh for me, and I started body surfing and stuck with it because a lot of the California boys in Northern California and also Hawaii were a little territorial, and like you said, in Topanga, they were a little gnarly.
Have you done any of that, Danny? Body. What is body surfing? I mean,
Yeah, I've
what is
certainly
that?
done that.
What
That's
is
where it's without a board.
I get-
you catch the wave without a board.
You can make your body. You can if you know how to position your body.
See, he's got his arm.
I was
out
going to
there.
say,
See,
I
just
thought,
like he-
I thought
that's
you
how
go,
you do it.
I
You
thought you
put
go.
your arm
I thought you
out.
go for your gun.
He's already. He's surfing right in
He's
here.
going, isn't he?
You
He's
can
gone.
get right in there on the wave, and you can get a fantastic ride, you know, using your body like a surfboard.
So you're going along the wave, flat, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's an amazing
Intense.
feeling. You know, I mean, you know, I really admire the guys that are able to get up on the boards and do all that. that, but I've never done much of that, But
Were you one of these, Danny? Were you one of these guys that got under the wave? Did you do that? Was you any good at that? When the wave comes over and they go like in the tunnel. Did you?
Tube.
Oh yeah, I've done
What's
that
it called?
before.
Tubed.
Yeah,
Tube.
in the tube inside. But I body surfed too.
Okay.
When I was in Florida and we were surfing in Florida, that you could see the sharks all over. They were out St. Augustine, and so I lost my board. I guarantee you, I body surfed all the way in.
I bet you did.
On that deal, because. Yeah, I don't want to be. Them sharks are not nice to be around.
No, if I see one of them, I think I would learn how to body surf very fast.
The Hawaiians used to feed them, though.
Yeah?
Sure, they fed the sharks, so they weren't a problem. And I never saw a shark in Hawaii, only in Florida.
It says here on my list, Danny, that it's raised by your mum, but reconnecting with your dad at 34 years old. I mean, what was all that about?
Right. Well, you asked me a question, how'd you get involved in music, I was raised, I had a stepfather, his name was Don Rumpf, God love this man,
Mm-hmm.
and he came into my life when I was about 10 years old. He said, first thing I need to teach you how to do is fight. I need to teach you how to fight. And after Don Rumpf, he had a restaurant in Florida, and I went there, and there was a drummer. He had a drummer that played with June Christie, and I used to sit there and watch this drummer. He was fascinating to me, and he gave me a pair of sticks, and taught me like paradiddle and a couple of things. And I went home and just beat the heck out of the stove where I lived at the house. And I came back, and when I came back into Los Angeles, my oldest friend, Dick Sanders, I said, I love the drums. I got to play the drums. He said, I know a teacher. I'm working with a guy at the phone company, and this old drum teacher, Skip Falls, who used to write the music for Ice Capades and his dancer wife. Mm-hmm. And so I met Skip Falls, and he said, listen, if you want to play rock and roll, I'll take you down the street and introduce you to the guy, but if you really want to be a drummer, then you're going to have to do the work, and I'll be happy to work with you.
Nice. So that was your first...
That was my teacher. That was my guy.
That was your first into music, was the drums then, yes?
Well, yeah. When I heard him play, it was like, how can I get that? How can I have that? I want that. That I want. I don't care what I got to do. I want that.
How did you get your first drum kit?
I had a surfboard. I had a Reynolds Yater surfboard, and I traded it to Willie Gaxiolia, who had an old set of Ludwig WFL. He wanted my surfboard, and I wanted those drums.
Fair trade.
Fair trade.
I went down, and that was it.
Did you have any sticks left after the stove, though?
Oh, I had my drum teacher took me down to Pro Drum, which I have shopped at for 50 years on 817 North Vine, and Pro Drum is my place. And they had a guy, Bob Yeager, over there, who was just God have mercy, there's nobody like him in this world, and he would heckle everybody. I would come in, he goes, yeah, see that guy? I've known him. He's been a pain in the ass for 14 years in my life. He talked to all the great drummers, that's where they shopped. I saw everybody there, and they were nice.
Oh, he was the shop owner, yeah?
He was the shop owner. It's still going on.
Yeah?
He's passed away, but his sons run it.
At least he took over the heckling?
No. Nobody could have done that. Nobody can.
Was it in those days? Was it pigskin in those days?
No,
on the
no.
drums? No. What was it?
I mean, I bought all these old Radio Kings. He'd call me up, hey, I got another one of these Radio King drums. Now forget it, they're collectible. You can't buy them. Mm-hmm. And they had the old calfskin heads.
Okay, all right.
And those were my favorite drums. Mm-hmm. They're made in the 40s and 30s.
That's
my
right,
favorite. Yeah. They had the great shells. They had the great big fat sound.
They had the Ludwig and the Sonar, didn't they? Sonar drums and Ludwig. I mean, they were...
Sonar was more of a German kind of a...
But do you like the Ludwig, yeah? The sound?
No, I like Rogers. I had my first set was my third set, first brand new set was a Champagne Sparkle Ludwig, 1966. Wow. But my favorite, always Rogers White Marine Pearl. Same as Buddy Rich, same as Gene Krupa, same as Louis Belson, White Marine Pearl. That's what I want.
Sounds sweet, Bobby.
He knows his stuff. Absolutely.
Well,
I mean, you wanted to take on that one, Bobby. Go for the LA one. You mean you've got a couple of things down there. I want to bring Bobby in as well because he's the music man, and I'm sort of we're the listening men today, aren't we?
He is a music man too.
We're here to just make.
So
up the
what
crowd,
kind of music was?
absolutely.
What kind of music was inspiring you at that time? You were growing up in LA. You were surfing a lot. and you're playing the drums. And when you started drumming, what was your vision in terms of the music that you wanted to be doing?
Well, that's a good question there, Bobby. They had a radio station in Los Angeles called KBCA 105.1. It was a jazz station, and they had a radio DJ. His name was the Jammin' J. Rich on the dial.
Jammin' J. Rich.
And I didn't know anything about jazz. I knew surf music and old rock and roll. And I was at my friend's house, and he had on this station, and I remember smoking a joint. I was trying, because I didn't smoke, so I was trying to get high. And finally, when I got high, I walked back out and laid down, and that radio station was on, KBCA 10, and they were playing like Cristo Redentor or some song that was just like, what is this? That's what I thought.
So everything was swinging back then. So
swinging like crazy.
Yeah.
And they had all the swinging clubs in L.A.
Yeah.
It was like they had Shelley's Manhole, which I lived at, and Shelley Mann was my idol. And then they had the Howard, Jesus Christ, the Lighthouse, where you could sit right next to the drummer. Back in those days, the drummer was there and I'm here. Wow. And so you could watch their feet and their hands, the stuff you can't hear on a record. Yeah. You could watch them play.
Amazing.
Oh my God. And when, I was playing this place called the Cheetah Club. It was a rock and roll place.
So what year was that? You're talking like 16 years old, 17?
No, when we played the Cheetah Club, I was 20 years old.
Okay.
And Shelley Mann came up to me and he said, we're playing on the bill with you. He said, my name's Shelley Mann. I said,
I know who you are.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said, Shelley, I know who you are. He said, can I play your drums? I said, you can play anything but my girlfriend,
And that's debatable.
No, not in those days. Not in these days either. I got to say that. No, I'm a hog. I got to have everything.
So was that before the Troubadour or after?
That was before the Troubadour. That was with the other half. That was with a group that I played with. We played with everybody.
The Troubadour, is that the same place as
Doug Weston,
Elton and that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Elton,
exactly.
yeah.
I played there many times. I played there with a group called Hearts and Flowers. We were on Capitol Records.
Yeah.
We had a record out. I thought it would hit called Rock and Roll Gypsies. Linda Ronstadt sang on her record. We always played there. I saw a lot of the, even Kenny Rogers was with the first edition. And he played there with us one night, and I thought he was the worst guy in the band.
Was the Troubadour the same as in the film? Was it like the wooden shack and the inside like a wooden
the
building?
Troubadour, people should just like that place is hollow ground in the early days. I played there. I used to go watch Hoyt Axton, who I loved. He sang Greenback Dollar and Goddamn the Pusher Man and a bunch of songs that I loved. He was big and handsome, and he had he played solo guitar. But when I played there, we played with Hoyt Axton, and he came up and he kicked in the dressing room door. He just came up and kicked in the door, and then he went down and told the management, somebody broke into my dressing room. And they said, bullshit. We know you kicked the door and you're going to pay for it too. So, but those were good. Those were good times, And there wasn't no slant about what he did. He kicked in the door. He's Hoyt Axton. That's what Hoyt Axton does. It's like, fabulous. He's my hero,
So that was when Bernie was playing with you guys, yeah?
Yes, Bernie Ledden played. Our original guitar player, Rick Coons, who I just adored this guy. The band had 3 male singers, and Bernie Ledden came into the band, and he sang, played, he was the lead guitar player, and had Rick Murray, which ran all the jams at the Troubadour. He was a Hollywood writer. He was a wonderful singer and a wonderful promoter. In life, he promoted things and he made things happen.
That's where they came up with the term hoot. The hoot was the open jam, yeah?
I'll tell you what, they don't have places like that anymore.
Yeah.
Very few places where you go in and they have a lighting guy. In Vegas they do. When I played Vegas, they have it in Vegas. But You know, Bernie Ledden, he left the
was
group and went to the
ex-Eagles, yes?
Eagles.
Ex-Eagles?
Yeah, he went to the Eagles after that. I didn't like the guy. I thought he was a dick. So,
Okay.
I kind of left the band in those days. But I don't like those kind of people, you know. The band was good. The band was harmonious. They bring in this new guitar player, and he disrupts the family.
Well, he was all about country. One of the reasons why he actually split from the Eagles was because the Eagles were going rock, and he wanted to keep traditionally. He wanted to stick to the country thing, the country rock thing.
Yeah.
Was he kind of heading you guys more towards country back then, or was he?
To me, he was just tight. You know, he was a kind of tight guy. We were loose. You know, I mean, they played that beautiful folk music, and those guys had that finger picking. They had a beautiful 3-part harmony back in that folk era day, which was really
Didn't you say that country was your first major influence?
I love country, but country came along later in my musical career.
Okay.
I mean,
Where does the Doors Light My Fire come into this? Because I like the Doors and I met them. So where does that come into it?
Oh, you met them?
Yeah, that one up there is from London. I was with Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger over there.
Oh yeah.
Which was really cool. But of course, in your time, the full band, I would imagine, yes.
Well, this guy met Jim Morrison, so I think he's one up on you.
Hey, listen, getting stumped on a show is not a problem. I'm a cool guy, honest, Danny, honest.
I don't think anybody met Jim Morrison back in those days to say, Bobby, but we were in the next dressing room because we played the Valley Music Center with the Doors and with the Iron Butterfly, which had a song, I hated it, Inagata Davida, just hated that song.
You know that one?
Yeah, but not one of my favorites either.
Unanimous then?
But it was a hit. You know, I mean, they were everywhere. It was a huge hit.
Inagata Davida.
Yeah, it was like one of those, it almost was satanic or some kind of sounding thing, But I tell you, the Doors, to me, first of all, the guy was terminally handsome. I can think of Elvis Presley. Ricky Nelson was terminally handsome.
Jim Morrison, 100%.
He was a handsome-looking guy till he destroyed himself.
Absolutely.
Another drug fatality, along with Peter Green back in those days, and several people that, they just didn't hold it together. But in the early days, being a drama major at UCLA, I think he was all about drama. His stage presence was fabulous. The songs that they sang and played were fabulous. The bass player on their first album, I met him, a wonderful guy. I don't know why they never invited him to play with them in the band.
And why is that? Why did they just stick to a 3-piece?
I don't know, but they had a great bass player on the first album, and the guy was driving a taxi in L.A., because, nobody makes it. It's
they used him on their
difficult.
sessions, but they didn't use him live, right?
They didn't use him live, and they should have.
No, there's only 3 on stage, yeah.
But, they really had a nice thing. Those 3 guys together probably didn't want to use him because they had a network.
Yeah.
They knew each other. So they didn't want somebody like a foreign river in the big river that
Probably had to do something with psychedelics.
Well, now there was a few of those around. People were jumping out of windows back in those days. I remember.
I seen him at Shepherd's Bush at the Empire when I went to see Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek. And I remember I'd never seen them live and never done anything. Of course, I played the tracks over the years on radio and that, but never seen them live. And I remember just sitting there, and he had this like modern day keyboard, but on the top. Put on the top of the keyboard was his old keyboard, which he started.
Farfisa.
Man, it was it just went. And when I seen them, they had a guy from a rock band actually singing the vocal. I can't remember his name. Sorry about that, but it was amazing. Then after in the back dressing room meeting the guys it's phenomenal, really good, nice, one in a lifetime. But, I really enjoyed it.
Well, there you go. Because is it the song or is it the singer? Because some of those songs are still powerful today. Those
I would say it's a song, Danny.
Well, that song
I
"Light
would
My
say-
Fire" was what made them.
Yeah.
That's what did it for them. And we talked a little bit before about the history of that. Because it was the first song. It was an 8 or 9 minute song, and that was unheard of to play a song.
Yeah,
that
sure.
long. This DJ Dave Diamond just went against all advice and just played the song, and all of a sudden the station was flooded with phone calls, and then their success was overnight due to that. So
It definitely made. I mean, Riders in the Storm. I mean, all those things now today. You say, is it the singer? Is it the song? You know, great singer, but I think the song is what people recognise and brings back the memories of where they were, what they were doing, or anything. They don't sort of think Jim Morrison singing that, which he was, but they don't think like that. People think, oh, I remember that song, and at that time I was surfing, I was on the beach, I was with my girlfriend. So it's the song that brings back the memories, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that Jim Morrison, man, God have mercy.
Phenomenal.
I mean, you can think of doing covers on certain songs. I wouldn't do a cover on that song. I think a song's wonderful.
Yeah.
But how are you going to cover something like that? You know, it's so iconic.
yeah.
I just leave it alone.
I remember when after Jim Morrison died, they tried to replace him, didn't they, with another guy who looked like him, yeah, who looked like Jim Morrison, and all the fans went totally against it and said, you know, this guy is trying to be him. So they ended up doing a few little tour or something, and after that they had to get rid of him. And then they brought in a few other guys that did the vocals for them. But the guy that actually stepped in the shoes to try and be him got really ousted, lynched nearly. Which I can understand.
Well, those are hard shoes to fill.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way the fans seen it. You know, you can't be him. To him, you know, to us, he's an idol. To him, he's the main thing. How can you try and be a carbon copy of what we love? Yeah, so I can understand where they were coming from.
Come in with a different angle with a good songwriter, a guy that can write great songs, and have those guys in a different, newer, you know, acceptable position. Okay, but he was the star in that band.
Yeah.
He was it. That was it. That was him.
As musicians, I mean, if you don't, I was a DJ for 35 years, yeah. So I used to get like the records plugged to me and all this kind of stuff. But and Matthew and Bobby know all about this. But as musicians, yeah, do you ever have that feeling when you're playing the track or a song or making a tune or whatever, and you know it's going to be a hit? Do you have that feeling, yeah? Or is it the feedback you get from people? Do you instantly know that this is going to be something? Do you get that feeling as musicians? I don't know. I'm just trying to work it out. Do you get that sort of
For me, when I hear something that resonates, I have pretty good sense. I know I can usually tell. I've been pretty accurate with predicting the songs if it's going to be a hit or not.
Well, the song that you wrote, "Hypnotize," was a hit, yeah.
Well, it was a hit of sorts. It wasn't. It never made it to It made it in the top 20. On Billboard, but
that's a good achievement to get into the top 20.
Yeah, that's pretty
it's just Danny. What I'm trying to say is, people used to come to us and plug records to me on the radio station, or DJing or whatever, and they used to say, "Play this, you get $5, $10, whatever. You play this." And also they used to say, "Play these," and what do you think? What do you think to them? Because as DJs, of course, we knew what the hits were, we knew what people liked, we knew what people were dancing to, and what their taste was. So they used to listen to us a lot. And we used to fill out these survey forms, for them to say what we thought of the record. And from that, they would say, yeah, okay, we'll put it out there. I mean, as musicians, I just wondered how it worked. Do you instinctively know that it's a hit? Like, Sherry was written on a bus in 5 minutes and the rest is history.
Well, the thing about a song is only a visitor. Anybody that writes a song will say, hey, listen, it just came to me and I wrote it down. And I've had songs come to me and I haven't written them down. They're gone forever. They'll never come back. So the magic is catching a song before it disappears. That's good. And I've written a lot of lousy songs. I really have. I wrote some not some great commercial songs. But lately, and I've been writing for many years. That's why I play guitar. But lately, I started to sort of like them myself. And I'm real finicky about
I like them too.
Music, So
on that note, maybe we should.
I don't know.
Maybe we should hear one of your songs right now.
Yeah, Buble says you should always take a dictaphone to the toilet. He says when you're sitting down.
Right.
Yeah, he says when you're sitting down, he says so many times it just comes to me when I'm sitting on the toilet.
A lot of guys carry a little small pad around because you never know when it's going to visit you. That's the one
I can get where you're coming from.
And Dylan says, "Hey, listen, I don't know where those songs came from." And to me, in that early '60s world, there ain't nothing better than that. I'm just sorry, man. He was the king of the road when it came to writing songs. His songs, forget about it. Nobody. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Bobby, my man, look at
yeah.
him.
Do you guys fancy doing a bit of a? Do you fancy having a bit of a go?
Sure, why not?
Let's do
Do
it.
you want to get yourselves ready?
Yeah.
All right,
do it.
okay. I'll do a bit of chatting. You get your guitars and get you're on the. Yeah, you doing?
Yeah.
I forgot my triangle. I'm sorry.
Oh, you forgot to try it. Well, we can't play without that.
I was like, Bobby, I want to be in the band. Bobby, I want to be in the band. For you guys out there, don't forget, if you want to get us, of course, it's talkingheadspodcast.com is the website. Of course, go to the Facebook page, and of course we are there. And at the moment, if you go to the YouTube channel, which is Talking Heads Podcast, you'll see all the
I've got to be
videos
able to
on
hear
there.
your guitar.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Up a little bit. You okay, Matthew? with that?
Yep, yeah. Give it a try. Which one is
This one is called Outlaw.
Outlaw.
Outlaw. This is a song about Mexico. I got a little bit of history down there,
Yeah,
south of the border.
I want to hear that. That's
Okay, we can do a bit of an intro. Hi, Arriba, this is a Mexican and a bit of outlaw. When you're ready, guys, the stage is set. It's all yours.
Down on the Badlands of Lime, with a gun in your hand, and you're praying in the dirt. Sometimes a prayer is all you got. Got to get you by. No politicians, just a gun. But a gun you can trust. When life ain't worth a dime, even the whiskey is crying down on the Badlands of Lime. Now I'm an outlaw, I'm on the run. I'm traveling light under that midnight sun. They accuse me of murder in the first degree, 'cause I shot a bad man before he shot me. Yeah, I'm an outlaw, oh, on the run. Sun is going down around the border of Mexico. Federales are sitting low in a car they just stole. Always looking for money if they find me. I might not wake up tomorrow morning free, 'cause I'm an outlaw, say, on the run. Go ahead. Bobby, Go ahead. Ricky, my old friend, well, he's got no legs. He lost them in a gunfight down in Sinaloa days. Oh, sitting on dynamite and a gun. We be trouble free when we're on the run. 'Cause we're outlaws, yeah, yeah, we're outlaws. Mm-hmm. That's right, we're outlaws. On the run. Thank you, you wild mob.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're here all night. We're here all night. That was absolutely brilliant, guys.
That was nice. I liked the audience. The end was nice. Nice touch.
They cost me a fortune. Don't tell them, all right? That's the modern technology.
What a beautiful tune,
Yeah, I
Danny.
was going to say
Thank you,
that
Bobby.
song, boy, that
Thank
gives
you.
you goosebumps. I mean, that's really.
That was really, really nice.
Well, I love the way Matthew Kelly plays guitar. Let me say
yeah.
that. And right over there, Mr. Bobby is a very, very rare talent. Right over there, very humble, rare talent.
No kidding.
Kapu my God.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the whistle, mate. You got the whistle going there. I mean, you just wow.
Yeah.
I love that
It's
sound.
nice because we've never played this song before until just now.
Well, that's even better though, isn't it?
Yeah, I always kind of like that the most because you never know quite what to expect.
Don't worry about it. We've got the intellectual property rights now already. You did record that, didn't you? That was good. Where does that song come from, Danny? I mean, what's the origination of that? Do you know that?
Yeah, please.
Well, that comes from a little tune. Actually, I've sort of beefed it up a little because I recorded it before and it was not long enough, so I added that part in the beginning, that thing about the gun and the politician and all that in the beginning to kind of just widen it up a little taste. Sometimes when a song comes through you, there it is. And then you're lucky if you're able to match it up, at another time and place. You get lucky twice. So with this song, I got lucky twice. But it's about Mexico. And there's other lines. There's a lot of verses that
Variations,
I have for it. Yeah. A lot of verses.
You have to go with the flow, though. I mean, that was a great flow. That was a lot of vibe there, wasn't it? I mean,
Well-
we probably gone on a little bit more on that one because I was enjoying that.
Can I, if I,
Sad
no,
to
I
stop.
can jump in just for a second.
Sure.
I think, Danny's got so many stories too that are just amazing, but I think that people would really be interested in some of your tales of Mexico and in with the song was has to do with. If you don't mind, do you want to
Sure.
talk about that?
Share a Mexican story with
Sure.
us.
Well, si habla español. I learned how to speak Spanish down in Mexico, but back when I used to go to Malibu surfing, there was a surfer there, John Mills. He's dead now. The Mexicans killed him. And he was my all-time favorite. And Malibu was like, it was the place where all the surfers went, and all of them there, the whole gang was there. And you got this, just like musicians, you can see when a guy's really good. You can feel it, you can see it. And same way in surfing, when a guy has that artistic thing. Well, John Mills had it for me. And he was the first guy in my life that showed me what I call pot mathematics back in those days. Back in those days, when weed was very illegal. You would get a pound. He said, now here's how you do it. You take that pound and you cut it in half. Half's for you, and you sell the other half to keep that half. And I thought, it was like Einstein. I never what? That's just amazing. Well, anyways, my boy John, God bless him, he was one of my favorite people, and he was running the border of Mexico back in those days. A lot of guys were running the border in their Chevys, packing the door panels and the spare tire and wherever else they could get and drive it back across the line. They were making a good living. And they'd show up in new cars, and they had nice guitars. And John, he had a D45, and he had a white Falcon, and, he had every damn thing. And his father was a big movie star and a big idol of mine because I never had a father. And when I'd go to his house, his father, Mort Mills, who was a movie star, a genuine movie star back in those days, and he played ukulele. He got me playing ukulele. But John said to me one time, I'm going down to Mexico. You want to go with me? And I said, yeah, why not? Because I was just a fun-loving guy back in those days. I thought, I'll go down to Mexico, smoke a little weed. We're going to go right to where they grow it. We're going to go right there. Oh, yeah, I want to go there. And
road trip.
Yeah, a little road trip. Here we are, south of the border.
Here we go.
But the laws at that time in Mexico were 3 years. Oh. So if you got busted for narcotraficante or smuggling, it was 3 years. That means it would cost you a couple $1,000 and you could get out. The problem being is that when we ended up down there in Oaxaca, Mexico, and we had a whole, we were starting to buy all this good weed from the farmers at night. We'd go taste it all in this big room. They changed the law. So I remember looking in the paper and going, over breakfast, I said, I was eating huevos rancheros, and I thought, I can't eat no more. Look at this. And they changed the law to 5 years and 5 months. That means you no longer get to walk out of this world if you get busted. So we drove back into Mazatlan, Sinaloa, and we had a lead car. We had John's brother with this jerk named Patrick was the shotgun man, and they had these sawed-off shotguns that I had they were supposed to protect us. But when you go to Mexico and you come up across the Federale roadblock with 15 guys on each side with Uzis, you realize those little shotguns don't mean much, So we ended up back in Mazatlan, and at that time, John said, I'm gonna go. We were going to take the ferry to La Paz. That's it. The truck is full of weed. You can't see through the back window. It's up to the top of the camper. And it was a 73 Chevy. This was in 1974. And he said, I'm going to go to La Paz, make sure there's no federales, make sure everything's cool. All right. So it left me, the part-timer. I'm just there for the joyride, having fun. Now I'm driving the load.
You're the main guy.
I'm the main guy with all the weed. Good weed, by the way. Senzamilla. But, and back in those days, we'd call it, he would always say, I want these big tops just like Uli Spuma, which means foam rubber. I want a big top just like foam rubber. And that's what we had, these big fat tops. So anyways, we got down to the boat and the federales were there. I remember thinking, how did I end up like this? It was almost like, how did I end up like this? And I was fighting with myself all the way back. After I read that article in the paper, I was having a fight with my intuition. My intuition said, get out and run, and who cares?
And the weed saying, come on.
No, the weed ain't saying shit, but the fear is monumental.
Yeah.
And I'm having a premonition here that I'm like being warned. But you know what? I can't run. I'm a Venice guy. We don't run. We don't run from shit. So if you run, you're finished in Venice. They say, yeah, we had Danny Woody, and guess what? He got out and ran. That sissy. So
that's you done then. Yeah.
I got to drive it. And when I walked, I was living in Sun Valley, Idaho at the time, in the most beautiful place you've ever seen. Gorgeous place. I had a band, Snow Jazz. I wanted to do this so I could buy new equipment, but I kept having a dream about a boat, and I could never figure it out. And all of a sudden, I'm there, and I'm in the truck, and there's no federales, and the wagon that was the lead cars, 4 cars in front. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. The boat hit that certain sunset, and it was like a deja vu. I said, this is that dream. It was exactly that dream. And I got lost. I don't know for how long, and then there was a rap at the window, and it was a guy in a Guayavera shirt, a real nice Guayavera linen shirt. And I remember thinking, this don't look like no boat employee to me. And he said, Dame los llaves, which means give me the keys to the trunk. And I froze. I was like, this is the moment in my life I never wanted to see. And he reached over me like some bad dream, and he grabbed the keys, and I watched him with a rodeo walk. He sort of strutted back to the back of the truck. And I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw there's a couple guys with automatic weapons walking towards me. And the guard that I passed up, the old guard, had his gun out too. And well, he opened up the back, and there, what does he find? A whole truck full of weed. And he came back and said, you know what you got in the back there? I said, yeah. I couldn't say anything. And he said, and by the way, do you know those guys over there in that station wagon? I said, I never saw them before. I don't know those guys. And he looked at me, and he just said, shook his head. This young commander. And I kind of liked him. He had manners. He was polite. He was like educated probably in America. And he walked over to the station wagon, and the keys, I heard him pull out the keys. They went up in the air, and they hit the roof. And you could have heard it in L.A. There was just like, it was just unreal. And he told, get out of the car. So those 2 guys got out, and he crawled in on the seat, and he looked at the radio. We had these intercom radios from Radio Shack. Radio Shack. And, so he looked at the radio, and then he went, and he already looked in my car, and he saw there was a radio. So he said, listen, you guys, you got the same radio. And the guy said, so what? A lot of people have the same radio. He says, but your radio is 1 serial number apart from that radio over there in that truck. Do you know that guy? No, we don't know that guy. And so they got real indignant. These are tough guys. These are, they got real indignant. Now, we ain't got no weed. You can't bother us. We're not holding nothing. And that pissed him off.
Absolutely.
So this little federale strolled back over to the truck and dropped the tailgate and grabbed a big hand of weed and went over and dropped the tailgate down on the station wagon and threw it in. And he said, now you do. And so, anyways, they took us to prison in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, which Sinaloa is a gnarly town, man. It's a gnarly drug gangster town. They're still killing people off today down there. And they gave me a sentence of 5 years and 5 months, but only you have to sit in prison for a year before they give you that sentence.
Oh,
and. So the thing is, I got about 70,000 words on the book that I'm writing. And I've tried to write the book about my life story or about San Francisco or about the beach. But every time I read it to somebody, they say, no, just forget about all that. Just go to the prison. Get to the prison.
How long did you actually stay there for then?
I was there 3.5 years.
Oh.
And then I was brought back on the prisoner exchange program. So they brought all the prisoners back from foreign prisons. So I was brought back in.
Pardon.
But, that's after seeing all the stuff that you see and something like that. And I guarantee you there's no movie out that tells anything. They had, what was that, Midnight Express?
Midnight Express.
Yeah.
That's just bullshit.
Really?
Just bullshit. I mean, when you see the things that happen in a Mexican prison, because the police are not inside, the guards are not inside. They stand outside the gate. Inside's a commission that sells booze, women, property, food, everything. If you don't have money, you're done for in there. You got to have money. So you develop really good letter writing skills in that place. And I became strung out in there, like a lot of guys, because they sell heroin in there. They sell everything in there. But, I was one of the lucky guys to make it out alive. I made it out alive. But still, to this day, I have prison dreams.
When you was in there, what did you do to survive? Did you take on the role of writing letters or getting involved in what they did? Try to mix with them?
I had a couple good friends of mine in there.
Right.
That were real I had a few good Mexican friends that took a liking to me. They took a liking to me, and they sort of protected me in there. They protected me, and I didn't really rattle anybody's cages in there. But the guy the brother of John, he's a tough guy. They beat him into the ground because he was always like, Mexicans don't fist fight. It's like, oh, well, it's like, what? No, you want to what? It's like, this ain't no TV show. So they just say, okay, sorry, and they back away. And then you're walking down the corridor, and next thing here, the guy jumps out with a baseball bat, and it's over.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a different kind of a world down in that kind of a situation. And I saw some of my friends die in there, that I really loved. Guys that had more soul than people I'd ever known. Wonderful human beings. And the guy that was the head of the commission, Mudo was his name. Mudo means like a mute that don't talk because the federales beat him for days and he didn't say anything. And he was the head of commission. He had a Coors golf hat, big tall guy, dangerous dude, dangerous. And there was a prison escape once. I'll say this and then we can move on. But there was this American guy that was orchestrating a prison break with 3 Mexican guys and him. And he had 4 guns. He had a lot of money, and his main thing was to break out. So the day came when it was all going to happen, and then up went the bamboo ladders on the wall, and I saw one of my favorite people, a guy named Chewy, who I loved this guy. He had a weird eye, and he was all scarred up, and he was just a bad, gnarly character. Just, one of those guys that you just would idolize. He was just a lovely man. Killer, but a lovely man. And he went up on that ladder. They shot him off. And I never forget that, watching him laying in his own blood. And the guy that orchestrated it, they shot everybody and killed him. And he was standing at the entrance ready to get on the ladder. And he decided, I don't want nothing to do with this. And he walked back down the end of the corridor, and I saw Mudo go right on down the aisle. And then you heard a big bang, and Mudo shot him. And that was that. And the end of story. And here the federales came in. It was like, yeah, the guy killed himself. And I saw it in the paper. And there was an article in the Texas paper how the guy had committed suicide.
And you haven't put this in the book?
It's in the book.
Oh, great. I mean, what a story.
It's all in the book. And the book goes on in detail about several things that happened in there. Blah, blah, blah.
Can we have a bit of a tune? Can we have a bit of a tune to lift us up in here? I mean, it's an amazing story. I love that story.
It's pretty intense.
I didn't mean to bring you down.
No, you didn't bring me down. And while you was talking, I was just writing out the movie contract.
I'm ready to cry over here. Forget about it.
It's an amazing story. It's absolutely amazing.
What's amazing is that you survived. I mean, I don't know what your secret was. How would you, if you could talk a little bit about how you survived, because not everybody would be able to survive that kind of ordeal.
I would imagine not playing a big gun, standing out from the crowd was probably one of the things that probably saved him, and having 2 friends in there, sort of, staying at the back of it of the crowd. Is that right? Would you say that?
They didn't kill me because I bought a lot of drugs. Because there was a guy in there, his name was Michael Belt. Michael Belt walked in looking like a football player. He was an athlete. He was about same size as Bobby, big, strapping kind of a guy. And him and his father got busted. And the federales said, well, one of you guys is going to have to stay. So the father got cut free, and Michael said, I'm going to stay because the father was too old. So the father sent him a load of money every month. And Michael proceeded to be my best friend. And he said, I hear there's heroin in here. And I said, oh, yes, there is. He said, well, go get us some. And he had a load of dough. Yeah. But he said, I don't want nobody to know I got dough. So you're going to buy it all. I said, all right. So that was the deal. I bought a lot of heroin from the commission, and they're not going to kill off the guy that's making the money. They're not going to do that.
No.
So that was one of the ways I got protected.
That was a good move.
But the Father protected me, or God, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it, So I call it the Father because that's what my father used to say. I'm protected. And you know what? I learned one thing for sure. You can't run away from your faith. I learned that there. I knew that I was glued to the seat. I know I should have got out and ran, but I was like, my fate said, this is going to be part of
That's a weird feeling.
Your
When
life.
that must have been a weird feeling, knowing that you've got to get out there and you've got to get out of there and get away quick, but you can't move. You, like you say, stuck to the seat. I mean, it must have been such a weird feeling.
There's something, there's something bigger than, I feel there's something bigger than all of us out there in the world running things, and I just need to get in touch with, I need to get next to that spirit and next to that kind of feeling in life if anything's going to happen, for me. And that, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
Great story, though. I love that.
Speak good Spanish now, though. I can order tacos.
Took me 3.5 years, but I can order tacos now. Yeah, Bobby, you want to do a track? Yeah, you want to do some more songs? Is that okay?
All right.
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do another one.
Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Great story there, Matthew. Yeah, lovely. I love that story.
It's a fantastic.
That's a brilliant story. I love it. I love things like that. When yeah, it's good. I like it.
Well, this one here, this is a song called, I like, later in my musical career, I got hooked up with country music because I didn't know anything about country. They call it, we play country and Western, two kinds of music, country and Western. So the thing is I had a call from this guy, Harold Cox in Bakersfield. He said, I'm looking for a drummer, and I know your name because you know the guys at Countryside Studios, and they recommended you. And it was either, I'm thinking, I don't want to play country, because for drums, it's boring. It's not that interesting. At least I thought. And I didn't know much about country. I didn't know much about Merle Haggard, because he sang this Okie from Muskogee, which I thought, who wants to know a guy like this back in those days? But the thing is that I got involved in country music because to save my rent, to save my house in Venice. And I got involved with these two guys, Denny McCullough from Nashville and Jerry Osborne from Kentucky. Big 300-pound bass player. And he said, you play too much, but you're good, but you play too much. But I'm going to teach you how to do it, like pork chop. I said, who the hell's pork chop? That's Conway Twitty's drummer. So in life, I've been lucky. I feel like I've been lucky, and I'm still lucky. Even at my age, I still feel like the Father is still shining some kind of a little star on me. But this song was written for Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard because I love Merle Haggard. I think he's one of the greatest American songwriters. And, he had a problem with drugs and everything else, and like a lot of folks like me. But anyways, it's called Living the Hobo Life. It's kind of a takeoff on Jimmy Rogers.
Okay, love it.
I'm living the hobo life. You got days and I got nights together. We're living on the road. I watch out for you when you're sleeping, but when that dawn starts creeping, we got to be moving on, moving on. Now Willie would always say, we're living on God's highway, the only good life I've ever known. Free as the wind, and he didn't mind saying, strumming his guitar while Merle was singing one of them good old country songs about way back when. Freedom is on the road. Willie played guitar, Merle sang his songs. Together they passed the hat round railroad town. But life's not the same as before. People got guns and a whole lot more. There's a different kind of poor coming around. There's a different kind of poor coming to town. Yeah, freedom was on the road where Willie played guitar, Merle sang his songs together. They passed the hat round railroad town. But life's not the same as before. People got guns and a whole lot more. There's a different kind of poor coming around. There's a different kind of poor coming to town. We're lucky to be walking around. Maybe we're a little closer to the ground, but we got hope, and the Father's good. I met some good friends along the way. What's on TV, Willie won't say. He said people are just as good as they want to be. Freedom was on the road where Willie played guitar, Merle sang his songs together. They passed the hat round railroad town. Life's not the same as before. People got guns and a whole lot more. There's a different kind of poor coming around. There's a different kind of poor coming to town. Different.
Love that. I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks. By the way, I was trying to think of the song while you was doing that. Listen to that. It was absolutely brilliant. Impulsive, but great. I love it. I love the sound. Thank you very much, Danny.
Yeah,
Matthew, I think it's brilliant to have you guys in there. And listen, Bobby V is the guy I was trying to think of. You remember when I was...
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Thousand Highs. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, sorry, it was Bobby Z. I had to look it up because it was bugging me. But
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Bobby V, yeah. The night has 1,000 stars.
Oh, that's a beautiful song.
Because the night has 1,000... Yeah, so it's Bobby V. Bobby, I'm going to put it over to you for a second because you've been a bit quiet at the end there. Besides playing that beautiful guitar at the end there.
Thank you, man.
That you look like... He also reminds me, he has a black shirt and he holds a guitar. Also reminds me of a Spanish waiter.
Yeah, I got self-obsessed and cut him off for his solo. I'm sorry, Bob.
Oh, that's why he smiled.
That's
he
what happened.
He looked at you.
You
and went,
know, yeah, I looked at him. I cut you off, didn't I?
You remember that, Bobby? I hope you remember that.
Less is more, in my opinion.
Listen, I
Oh,
enjoyed
no, I
that.
want to
is
hear
more.
you play, man. I like this guy. Is
Very good.
He's a humble cat, man, but he can play. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Hey, Danny, I want to hear about your time with Nicky Hopkins.
Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah.
You know-
he's like, to me, Nicky Hopkins is the quintessential session guy who played with the Stones, he played with the Beatles, he played with John Lennon, George Harrison, all those solo projects, and
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
And you got to hang with him, and
Sure.
Played with Jerry Garcia.
Jerry Garcia. And he got to play with Matthew Kelly. That's right.
How sweet it is,
Play
huh?
with him.
How sweet it is.
That could be a song.
I bet you know the words,
I do.
too.
I do.
No, you know, I was when I was living in San Francisco, I was lucky in San Francisco because I met Tim Davis. And at the time, the first time I ever played the Avalon Ballroom, we played with the Steve Miller Blues Band. and the Quicksilver Messenger Service. And there was I was warming up on the stage playing drums, and there was this big monster brother standing behind me with a sort of a black dude hat, and he walked over and said, "Oh, you don't play half bad there, man." So I gave him the sticks, and he sat down and played, and we became friends. We became instant friends. And Tim Davis, I will say, he was Steve Miller's drummer. And back then when Steve was the Steve Miller Blues Band, and Lonnie Turner and Steve Miller. And, Steve Miller, people want to blah, blah, blah about Steve Miller, but back in those days, that guy could play some serious blues on guitar. And he had Curly Cook in his band back in those days, and Curly Cook was tremendous, and then he had Boz Scaggs after that. But the thing is, we were living in a big house up on the hill in Sausalito. Tim was making dough. Me, I ain't making much, but he just loved me. I was his drum teacher. So I was with him 24/7. We were inseparable. And then we had another guy, Elliot Miller, and we were a trio. Elliot Miller was a huge hash smuggler, and the three of us were always together. But we had a big house up on the hill. God, it was beautiful. I mean, to look out at the bay there, and every night it was like the foghorn symphony of all those boats, and the fog would roll down the hill of Sausalito, and
that was a magical spot. So
God, it was beautiful.
Super magical.
I love all the. I've got to be. I'm intrigued by all the names you come out with.
Well,
all these guys' names, the places, but the guys' names that you've been mentioning along the way. I'm going, wow, how cool is that name? And then you come out with another name, and I go, how cool is that name?
Well, this guy was the coolest.
Cool.
I would call him, of all the people I've met in San Francisco, he was like the Pope of San Francisco. Everybody loved this guy, and I loved him. He was a big brother, and some of my dearest friends in my life have been big, gnarly brothers. When I went to high school, I was always fighting the Mexicans. I went to Venice High, full of Mexicans. I've always fought Mexicans, always, even, so it's a funny thing. I end up in a prison with Mexicans because I'm always been fighting those suckers. They just change colors, their clothes.
But when fighting with Mexicans, did they ever pull knives on you or anything like that? Because that's when it gets pretty gnarly.
I tell you what, in the prison, I fought with one guy and I didn't get hurt. But it was a real fight. You could fight in the prison. But those Mexicans, I fought them in school. So they didn't have knives in school, but they ganged up on you. That's
Absolutely,
what they never 1-on-1. It was always 3-on-1, 4-on-1 or whatever. But Tim Davis, man, what a guy. And we were living up on the hill. This woman said she owned the house. It was just a mansion, just a gorgeous, classy mansion. And she rented it out to him. We showed up at her door to rent the place. Here's some long-haired looking Danny Woody and Tim Davis, a big black brother. And it was like, she looked at us, didn't even bat an eye. And he said, I'd like to rent this place. And she said, well, come in and take a look. And we had a good relationship, and we rented it. And anyways, Nicky Hopkins, he ended up there with us in that place, I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. Tim said, yeah, he just come off the road with Jeff Beck. And I don't know Nicky Hopkins. Who's Nicky Hopkins? And we used to take walks, me and Nicky, because I had to walk this big dog, Conrado. And Conrado was this giant of a dog. And you never let him off the leash, never. Because this guy hated other dogs. He hated them. And so I would be walking with Nicky and asking him questions, what happened with you and Jeff Beck? And he said, well, Jeff Beck didn't think the group was good enough. And he fell in love with one of these girls, Carolyn, and married her that was around our world, And he said, everybody wanted him to play with him in San Francisco. He played with everybody. I saw him play with Steve Miller, played with the Jefferson Airplane, I think he played with, Jerry. He played with everybody. They all begging for him to be in their band because he was magic. This skinny little 130-pounder was like, when he put his hands on that piano,
Watch out.
He had the magic.
Yeah.
He could, if you said, all right, Nicky, you're solo, go ahead. Man, he turned it upside down and the right side up and sideways and everything else, and it was like, God, it was so beautiful. It was almost like he had a classical knowledge, classical knowledge, because his harmonies were so sophisticated.
Well, he did have some classical background, but he also, the thing I liked about his playing, he had the gospel influence intermingled in there, and so he had his own style. It was, so, like you said, so magical, and I never heard anybody like that.
Well, gospel, that gospel piano, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother world of, the note selection that you play. But he was just such a lovely little humble, he was a very small, frail guy. He was very frail. I don't know, but
he
it
was
was
plagued
almost,
with a disease from early on.
Something he had something, because he was extremely small, he had a big nose, but goddamn, he was a nice little humble guy, and he played the same way. He wasn't a pushy musician. He wasn't going to get in there and push people around. He just backed off, and he just what he added to it was
his own style, as you said. He had his own thing.
Yeah.
I think, like listening to you guys, I'm just trying to pick out what you're saying, and that is he sort of had influences from everywhere and put it together and mixed it up and made his own thing. Yeah, and that's what you're saying, aren't you? He worked wonders.
But some of
he
these
played Revolution. He played the track Revolution on the Beatles' White Album.
Okay,
and he did all those really classic Stone tracks with the piano. That's Nicky Hopkins, man.
Yeah.
Like, give me one song that
Angie. I mean, all those hits were Nicky Hopkins.
Yep.
That, everywhere I hear the sound of that one too.
Yeah.
Oh man, but guys like this, they're a special bunch. And when you're playing with people like this, you're sitting there and you're listening to what they do. It's just like, you have those moments in your life sometimes when you think, what, if I go away tomorrow, I've done this.
We're talking about the same Nicky Hopkins from the UK, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I've just got him here. I've just had to sort of find out who you're talking about because I'm intrigued.
Hey, Matthew.
Middlesex.
When
UK.
he was playing with Jerry, can you tell us about your connection with Nicky and also Mike Bloomfield, who Danny was hanging with in those days? So Nicky was on your sessions, and also Mike Bloomfield, yeah?
Yeah, well, I first met Nicky when I was sitting with the Jerry Garcia band, and they had Ron Tutt on drums, who was Elvis's drummer.
Wow.
And so I happened to be sitting. I think it was the first time I ever sat in with Jerry's band, and Nicky Hopkins. He was so such a warm human being, and he came up and
Yes.
gave me a hug.
That's right.
It was really nice. It made me, because I was really kind of shy at that point, and so he made me feel really welcome. And but I never hung out with him like you did. But I had the good fortune to have him play on a couple of my songs that I did, and he made the whole song come to life. His playing.
Yes, that's exactly right. That was his specialty.
I've got some. I'm just going to go in here because I'm listening to you guys here, but just looking at at some of the things they've done in here. I mean, Jerry Garcia, of course, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, Jeff Beck Group, Sweet Thursday, the Beatles, Steve Miller Band, Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver, the Who. Yeah, I mean, that's just to name a few of them.
Right.
There's a list, but he sounds like the guy. He sounds like the man.
He could have stayed in. Everybody said, please. They were all begging him. But he said, I'm going to the Stones. He told me, he said, I like that bass player, Bill Wyman, and I like a simple drummer. That's what he said. So I like them for that.
Well, Charlie wasn't he? I mean, in the Who, if you in the Rolling Stones, if you think about Charlie and you listen to Charlie, he said,
Pocket.
This is what I do, and they like it. I keep him in the rhythm. That's it. He says, I'm not a fancy drummer, and he's one of the. It's a real weird situation, this, because I met a reporter here in Patia years and years ago. It's nearly 15 years ago now, and he was reporting here, yeah? And when the Rolling Stones went to do one of their first gigs, which was in a church over in the UK, yeah? This guy was there in the church, working in the church, and making the guys turned up, and Charlie Watts was going to play the drums, and Andrew can play the drums, okay? But he was the cleaner there, he was a caretaker. And they were going to do the first practice, and then that was it. They were going to this gig a few hours later. Charlie Watts didn't turn up, and they said to Andrew, "You can play the drums, can't you, Andrew?" And Andrew went, "Yeah, I can play the drums." He went, "Sit down, you're in." And just as he rose the sticks to start the thing, Charlie Watts walked through the door. He says, and that was my near claim to fame. But how weird is that, eh? I mean, that's a true story. And Andrew
faith for sure.
Yeah. You know, but how weird is that, though?
That's
you know,
pretty- yeah,
it's amazing how things like that can just change. And like you say, that guy, he was a very talented guy, and I would imagine I've just reeled off some of the groups there that he played with. I'm sure that, like you said, Danny, he could have probably stayed with anybody.
Anybody. And everybody wanted him, I know that. And,
He's all over.
and rightfully so.
He's all over Imagine, the whole Plastic Ono Band, Imagine. He's playing Rhodes right behind John Lennon, on all those tracks.
What brought you over to? Can I ask you? What brought you over to Asia? I mean, how did you end up in Thailand?
I had a used Levi business in the States. I was called Mr. Levi. I taught people how to buy used Levi's. I was the guy that went into a small business. First of all, I got all the recyclers from Bakersfield on down to San Diego. Those are all my guys. They had a sign up says we pay $15 for used Levi's. I taught them how to grade the Levi's and buy them, and I'd roll in with my Oldsmobile wagon with the 454 engine, and I'd fill up the trunk with those Levi's. And then I had. It's amazing because I was in Bakersfield. I had a store in Bakersfield, California. Now, Bakersfield is just the armpit of the world in a lot of ways. I mean, that's where Merle Haggard and Buck Owens are from. Country music is there, but it's a different town right outside of the Dust Bowl. It would be like a John Steinbeck novel or something, kind of a thing, you know. And I had a shop downtown Bakersfield. I had all the thrift stores. They were all holding Levi's for me, and I had people coming in and bringing me their Levi's, and then the TV came down and filmed me. And I had a couple of deadbeats working for me that didn't have no job, didn't have no way to make money. They were working for me. And I grabbed a big bunch of Levi's, and I started throwing them up in the air, and I had a cowboy hat on. I said, "It's raining Levi's." And CNN picked it up. And so it went across the country. And the next day I went to work. It was like the line was around the block.
Yeah, just that one thing.
But in those days, nobody knew about used Levi's. And
It's
what,
massive
and
now,
what,
isn't it?
And what the vintage stuff is, and how to look for it, and none of that. I advertised. I paid $350 for one pocket jacket, and I'll pay $15 for your Levi's. And these people were selling them in yard sales for 25 cents. They don't care about Levi's. Get rid of them. But in Bakersfield, a lot of these people. I mean, I bought Levi's from the 30s that had never been washed in Bakersfield. I sold one jacket
From the 30s.
from the
Yeah.
30s.
That's nuts.
I remember seeing a program, The Pickers, and they were going around all these like farms and that, and this guy pulled out some Levi's and that from when they were still in the packet
Right.
from when the guys
Right.
brought them to do the mining and all that in, and he went, this is like a $250 pair of jeans today, and this woman went, yeah, but they were a few cents. They were. He says, yeah, but these are sought after. The press studs and the.
Yeah, no, they call them buckle bags.
buckle bags. Okay, all right, there we go.
The thing is, I paid $350 for a one pocket jacket, and people couldn't believe that. And I had Japanese customers. I had all the old Levi's. I wore all the old Levi's. And I still love them to this day. They're my favorite. They're the most beautiful. But I had a Thai customer, and the Thais, because they're very small, they wanted sizes 25 to 28. That's about it. Those are hard sizes to get. So I would have this guy who used to buy like 50,000 pairs a week. So I would sell him almost all of my stuff, and he would pull out the Thai pairs. And I brought him over to I had a Thai customer here who said, why don't you just fly over and bring them to me in Thailand, have a vacation. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do that. I like the sound of that. And I had some friends of mine who I met at the country club. We were dancing. They said, Thailand's fabulous. So I got on the plane with 2 suitcases full of, actually I had 4 suitcases, and I brought them in, and the guy bought it, and I had a wonderful vacation. And I thought, now wait a minute. I love Thailand. I love this world. This is a nice world we got going here. And so I met a Thai guy who had connections with the police, because bringing him in a suitcase is a little scary, just walking him across enemy lines. They busted me once.
Yeah.
And the Thai guys helped me get him back. Cost me 160,000 baht to get him back. But I had a guy that had connections, and so we rented a Ryder one-way truck. I'd bring in 20 bags of Levi's, you know. That's a lot of Levi's, you know. And I'd sell them all in one day. Goodbye, there they go. And that's what kind of got me to Thailand. And then in 97, they had the whole financial meltdown. And it was like I had 700 pairs, and I used to rent 2 rooms in the hotel, one for me and one for the Levi's, you know. I had the Levi's in the other room, and it was like, you can't sell them. So it was like, you know, and I left America because at that time I had just packed up everything, and I said, I don't care no more. I don't want to work 12 hours a day doing something that I want to play music. I was 50 years old. I want to play music. I don't care what I have to do or what I have to go through, and let's see where it ends. And I went to Thailand and sold my Levi's, and then all of a sudden you couldn't sell them, and it was like, I ended up playing at a brothel on Soy 33. I was playing at the brothel in a hot trio with the killer piano player and one of the best bass players I ever knew, and we were playing together, and it was, here I am, 50 years old, playing in a brothel, making $1,000 a month. Shit, I was making $1,000 a day in L.A., you know? But I didn't care anymore.
That's the thing.
You know?
I mean, yeah, the thing of I get the same thing about the $1,000 a day and the $1,000 a month thing. I get that. I'm with you there completely, because the $1,000 a month there I'd take all day, because it's just a different world.
Well, I was doing what I wanted to do. And I remember, you know, I had to save up to buy a music stand. I wanted to buy this one music stand, and I had to save up for it because I just didn't have any much extra money. And I met my wife at the time, and, you know, we've been married 21 years, but you know, she was happy to see me walk down the street. I walked down the street, and her little smile would light up my life. And I thought, you know, this is better than L.A. This is just better than L.A.
But how did you get the label of Danny California?
Well, I tell you what, I was playing. I ended up in Koh Samui, because I went down there. There was a New Year's Eve show, and there was this agent here, Tony, he's got all the gyms here and everything.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah.
But he was an agent here. He was an agent before. And he said, I got a gig for you on New Year's Eve at the hotel, Santaberry Dusit Resort, which is a 5-star hotel on the beach. He said, they want a MC. Can you do MC? I said, sure, I can do MC. So I went down to Samui, and the power and everything went off, except the mic. That was all that worked. And the guy said to me, you're the MC, right? I go, yeah. He goes, well, get out there and do your job. And I mean, it's like, there's nothing working. It's just the mic, you know. So I ask God, you know, whenever I get into a funny thing, I say, God, give me the words. Give me the words, because I don't know what to do in this deal. And I went out there and started yapping it up to the people. You know, it's so nice. Everybody's from all over, and who's from England, and who's from John Bob. And all these words started coming out of my mouth. And the owners of the hotel and the general manager was standing there, and they go, we want this guy. We want this guy working in our hotel. And there was a guitar player, Michael, who killed himself since then, alcoholic just like me. And, you know, they said, after the show, they said, would you come work for us? And I thought, well, at that time, I had the Levi shipments coming in, so I could go sell them and make, you know, good money. And I could live for free at this 5-star hotel and have a problem.
It's getting better.
Am I going to go swimming, or am I going to hit the beach today?
Yeah, sure.
But so that's how I ended. That's how my trip started here.
What about Shanghai, China? I mean, how did you end up there? I mean, playing over
From
there?
the brothel. The brothel put me to Shanghai, China, because there was a guy, Douglas Monito, he was a customer at this brothel, and God have mercy, man. He said, I'm building a club in Beijing. He said, I'm building a club in Beijing out of a New Orleans-style club. He said, here's a picture of it. He said, he got a postcard, and he said, I'm just going to build this club to look like this postcard. And he did. In the middle of Beijing, it looked like a spaceship out there in the middle. It was just so
unbelievable,
weird, you know. He said, I want this band at my club. What's it going to take? He said, who's the leader? And they said, the point of the drummer. The drummer's the leader. So I made a deal with the guy, and then they bombed the Chinese embassy by mistake, and the band said, I ain't going over there. So I had to find a whole new band. And I started the first jazz club in Beijing in 1999.
Wow.
And, you know, guys would come in the door, and they would just spit on the floor. That's where it was at. I mean,
Still do today. Still
it was
is today.
kind of, but the guy said, he said to me, I'll never forget it. He said, listen, I'm rich. And he was stupid rich. He said, I'm rich, but I'm not famous. And I want to be famous. I said, you do what I say and I'll make you famous. He said, all right. And anything, he said, and he flew me in first class to see that club. And he said, what do you need? I said, well, I need, I told him the number that I needed in money to buy everything that he said, equipment, we want the best, of course. And how much money? And I told him, and he said, told the German, give him the money. And that was it. Anytime I need anything, give him the money. And a year later, you couldn't get in the door of the club.
Wow.
You could not get in the door. It was, and they had a upstairs, where you could look down. And they had so many people, I thought that thing's going to cave in one of these days.
Oh, balcony.
Yeah, but it was called the Big Easy. And he had cooks from New Orleans. Here's how he did things. I'll shut up after this.
No.
He said, we need music. Anybody want to go to New Orleans? Some girl said, I'd like to go. He said, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to pay for you. Go to New Orleans, hang out for about a week. He said, and buy all the music. Buy all those CDs, those New Orleans CDs. Get them all. Fill up 2 suitcases and bring them back to me. And so that's the way he did things. All the way first class. He sat at the end of the bar every night. I sat behind the drums. I looked directly at him. He sat at the end of the bar. He drank Dewar Scotch. And he drank a lot. And before we did the show, I'd look at him, he'd look at me, and then we'd start playing, and he would nod, okay. Every night, and I'd nod back, okay. And
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. He drank himself into the box.
Yeah.
He drank himself to death. And I told him, don't you play with my band no more. Leave my band alone. They can't play after they get finished with you. Because he went out after work and he'd go to this place,
Sure.
Maggie's, and, they drink all night long. But anyways,
That's the killer there.
I had a guy, Handel Lee, who's a crazy Chinese promoter, big time promoter. He said, I like your voice. And I'm opening up a club in Shanghai. And I remember he said, I want you to come to Shanghai. So I went to Shanghai, and I stood out in front of the place. He said, this is going to be it right here. I'm going to renovate the building. And it was down on the Bund. It was an old historical building. So I looked at that building, and I thought, wait a minute. I saw this building on a news network. They had a story about Shanghai, and they had a story about this building, and about the Bund. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to work down in a place like that? Next thing I know, I'm there. I'm working at that building.
Wow. And
the guy was giving me good money too, but I wasn't going to play. I was just going to be on a computer, and he was going to write my deal off. It was the whole deal. And I met the general because I restored motorcycles back in those the Chinese sidecar bikes. That was my little hobby, like guitars is. So the general manager for the Ritz-Carlton, Mark DeCocinas, Mr. D, called me and said, I'm the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton. I'd like to meet you for lunch. I said, all right, yeah, great. He said, I want one of your bikes. And we became friends, me and this general manager.
A lot happening, Danny, yeah? A lot happening.
Yeah.
A lot going on there. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Great stories. Listen, can we just play one more track? Is that okay? Can we have one more?
I don't know what song we have left in our
Danny, do you have one more, or Bobby?
We can play another one if you like. You want to just do a blues?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what your
Matthew, you
genre.
can handle the blues, yeah?
I can deal with that.
If not, you can be a bystander like me, Matthew, and just
That's true.
enjoy it.
Yeah. Anyway, well, you want to?
Is that okay with you, Danny?
Sing it.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I'm enjoying it, mate. I'm here for the week, so I'm fine.
Okay.
What would you like to go for?
Actually, all right. That's fine. Want to do that, or that simple tune, Old Man Time? Want to try that?
Sure.
You know that one, Bobby?
No?
Okay.
I'll say yes to anything, though.
He's the leader. I mean, it's as you know.
Bobby can play anything. Bobby can, Talented human being.
You need to get, Danny. You need to get everything that you've spoke about. I mean, you've only skimmed the surface. You need to get all this down, mate, because this is a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Losing A?
I'm just going to sing this Old Man Time
You
song.
got a guitar on him, Danny?
Huh?
Guitar?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
You can hear him great. I'll just follow along.
What key would you call that with the capo? Is that A?
Yeah.
Yeah. A. You got an A? You got a
Yeah.
D over there?
I think I do.
This is just a simple kind of a country thing. Just goes, you know. It's an easy thing. I'll sing one verse and then you can see where it's at, and then you just jump right in. Old man time got a hold on me. Old man time got a hold on you. He's got my hand and he knows just when it's gonna fall. But old man time, he ain't growing old. There's a rich man who would like to buy more days, but old man time ain't the deal making kind. When I meet him, well, I hope it's in my dream. 'Cause old man time can be most extreme. We're going to the bridge. Sang Danny Boy with tears in my eyes when he met my mother that day. I was out of town when my father saw his face. Nobody's walking, nobody's talking, maybe they just fly away. Old man time, he's one of a kind. Yeah, Bobby. Old man time, well, he rolls in on a hurricane. When he's gone, the town don't look the same. He runs through your house, leaving mine behind. Old man time said it's not your time. Old man time, old man time.
Thank you, guys. That was absolutely brilliant. Loved it. Loved it today, Bobby. Liked it. Have you enjoyed that today? I mean, it's right up your street, that one.
Are
Yeah,
you kidding me? The legend.
yeah
The legends are in the studio.
the
right
legends
now.
are here, and
The legends, plural.
it's been
It's an honor to be with you guys.
It is
completely.
It's an honour to have you in the studio, and it's Danny. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. I mean, you're mesmerising. You're one of those guys that I just can sit all day and listen to. You know,
Well, thank you. It's nice to sit across from you. You know, I've always seen you on my phone. Now I'm looking at you right in person.
this is the big version.
Yeah, that's all right. It's good. Thank you for your personality. Thank
No,
you
it's
for all your-
it's been really cool. There we go. Oh, what's that one?
Oh, wait.
Oh, what's this one?
Oh, no. Well, this is something we don't want to forget.
Okay.
This is actually in the pandemic. I love guitars. I'm a guitar lover, although I'm a drummer.
Okay.
Now, I started building guitars. Started building by hand, everything by hand. So this is my second creation. This is number 2. Matthew Kelly, God bless him, bought my first guitar. It's over there.
0001.
And what a gem it is, I must say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call it Buttercup. That one over there. This one's called Doris. I think
Oh, this
Doris.
is the first one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the first one over there. It's that's actually a Keith. I call it the Keith Richards tribute because I designed it after Keith Richards' guitar with the upside down pickup, all the wiring, the wood's a handmade Hampshire oak body. It's got my name, Danny California, on the guitar. It's you know, I just want to say, just because you have these good parts doesn't mean you're going to have a good guitar. It just don't work like that. So the thing is, I sold a lot of my equipment to make these guitars, and I had a lot of sleepless nights and anxiety thinking, am I going to be able to pull this off? You know, is this going to work, or am I just going to have a dud on my hands, a pretty looking dud? But actually, you know, the Father or God or the power in the universe or whatever you want to say has been with me on this deal, because it's impossible for me to create something like this without some sort of
Guidance.
guidance or help or accidents. Everything's an accident. This here was an accident. This here was okay. I mean, it's just all the wiring. Everything is done 1950s. This is old handmade wiring. These pickups are all wrapped. This one down here are all wrapped for this is a 1955 Les Paul copy. This is a 50s broadcaster. This bridge likes this neck. I just thought, well, I wanted this painted here. Excuse me, this painted here, and they painted the whole neck. I thought, well, that's nice.
That's nice. Very nice.
I'll go with that.
Very nice.
So, you know, and on Matthew's guitar, that was the first one there. And, you know,
You ain't never going to find something like this in a guitar shop, that's for sure.
Does it have its? I mean, because you've made the guitar in your way, does it have its own feeling and its own sound, Matthew? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got to get this because I'm not a
Absolutely.
instrument player.
Because, you know, all the love that's gone into making this guitar and everything being handcrafted, you know, I mean, most guitars that you see off the shelf are just, you know, factory made.
Factory, right,
It's
yeah.
not the same at all. It's a whole different animal.
Les Paul wasn't he? He was an actor, wasn't he? With his wife, wasn't he? At one time.
well, he was the original. He was the founder of the Les Paul guitar.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And on the early Les Pauls, these were the pickups. And then in 56 or 7, they went to those humbucker. But the thing is that you can't just throw a guitar together and put it out. You can't do that because the parts. I had a lot of sleepless nights because I changed one part and the guitar sounds terrible. I'm thinking, no, please, how am I going to find it again? But I don't know. I feel lucky and I feel blessed, you know, to be able to. And Matthew, you know, because Matthew, this little sleeper doll over here, this guy can play. He's from an era that is a very special era, and he has a lot of, how can you say, like technique and intuition into the early sounds of what makes a guitar beautiful. He knows how to do that. So I was happy that he bought that guitar, And he also bought a handmade amp, which goes with the guitar, which we don't have here today.
You know, I haven't played electric guitar for many years, so because all my main electric guitars that I liked got stolen, so I kind of, you know, been playing more acoustic. But now that I've got something like this with a good amp to go along with it, it's going to inspire me to play a lot more electric.
Well, they definitely look the part. I mean, how many hours sort of go into that, Danny? Can you combine that to hours or?
I don't know.
No.
This eats up your life. I can tell you that. It eats up your life. To get it right, you know, this one came out from the shop. I designed it all. This is a 50s pickguard. Everything I designed, and I had it made. Everything is all handmade. But, you know, you don't know when it comes out of the shop if it's going to sound good. But it is a...
Well, they're definitely impressive, and of course, like Matthew said, I mean, it's one of a kind, and I would imagine they both have their own sound. Yes.
Yeah, they're very different. I mean, that one has a whole different neck, and yeah, they're both beautiful instruments.
I get where you're coming from, Danny, by just like tweaking something that it can throw the sound right off. Yeah, I gather it can.
One little thing and you're dead.
You're dead.
If you put it the wrong tuning keys, you're dead because maybe they're too heavy or they're too light. But here's another. I just wanted. Okay. Matthew bought an amp from me. There's an amp. It's called a Puritan amp. Now, my friend built this amp. This guy named Mo King. He lives in Duluth, Minnesota, which has got the most drastic weather I've ever seen. And I used to buy Levis from him and his brother. And he decided, he's a guitar player, he decided to build his own amp because he's tired of trying to find the amps. So this guy built this amp, and I said, how much you want for that amp? You know, that thing looks good. It's a copy of a 57 Fender Deluxe. And so a month later, it shows up at the post office. I said, Mo, how much you want? He said, no, I'm going to give it to you. And when I lost a 64 Strat in Shanghai. And I told Mo, I lost my Strat in a taxi. And next week, a 60s Music Master shows up in the hotel with an old case with a note from Mo that says, I hope this will help you feel better. I mean,
nice.
So I want to say that friends people devalue other people too much these days, man, because we need friends. We need friends in life. And this guy, back to the Ritz-Carlton, that Mark DiCocinis, the general manager, I learned so much from him about how to act and how to be a gentleman. You know, I don't
think too much of that happens today, though, Danny. With the way modern technology is and the way people communicate today, you know, old school, yes, but I think the new generation miss out on that.
Well, it's partly because of the way that they're brought up in schools these days. They're not brought up the same way that I was brought up. Perhaps Matthew was brought up, or, you know, Bobby. We had respect for. Matthew was talking for older people, for the police.
Absolutely.
For this other thing. It's just crazy what's going on in my country right now. It's
crazy what's going on in the world today.
Just in the general world. Because there's things that should never be debated. There's certain facts of life that should be, this is a fact of life.
That's it.
You know, you love your mother, you love your father, you respect the police. You know, you try to be a good person. You try to be a good person.
But old school values are not taught today, though, Danny. They're not. You know, I mean, they're brought as older people. We're brought up with those values. We're taught those values. Today, I think it's left out of the family community as a whole because everybody's so wrapped up in their iPhone or their computer or technology that it's missed. You know, and that's the problem.
It's an interesting thing. A lot of my friends just are crazy about these computers and all this, and they're good at it. They're incredible. But to me, it's just I liked my life better with an answer machine. I mean it. I liked the life better when you didn't have to lock your door at your house. I like when you could walk down the street and say hello to your neighbor. I liked the milkman delivering milk. I mean, yeah, I'm an old guy, but that era
I'm with you all the way
was so lovely, man. It was so nice, and people needed each other. Now they don't need each other. Maybe I'm on a soapbox now, but
because they have the computers.
They got the computers.
No, but you're right. You're right.
And I'm guilty of it too now.
We all are
in some ways. You know, I need to get myself off of that world because
get back to nature.
It's not been healthy for me. It's just not. You know, getting on YouTube and looking at all this information that I don't even need.
I mean, there was the program that I watched on the TV once, and they said that 90% of what people look at on the internet is no use to them anyway. They just look. They're just like drawn into everything, and they just watch things for the sake of it. It's good to have the technology there to help us, get further in life and communicate with people. I get all that, but when we're pounded with stuff every day, which we are on phones and computers, stuff we don't even need to know about, stuff we don't have, it's nothing to do with us, but it's just drawn and pushed into our heads.
It's very seductive.
Yes,
and it's very addictive.
Yeah,
it's like a drug.
Addictive. It is. It is. It's an AI drug.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. I mean, and like Danny said, the old days, you can't beat it. The milkman leaving the doors open and people communicating. I mean, you go to a restaurant today and look at the average family. Yeah, you got the mum and the dad and the two kids. What they all doing? Looking at their phones. Communication's gone. It's sad. And where it's going to end, we don't know. But I mean, all I can say, guys, is this, right? It's been a real pleasure to have you in the studio. Matthew, it's been great to see you again. Danny, first time meet. Yeah. Liked it? Has it been okay? Are we doing all right?
I think you did a wonderful job. Yeah, you couldn't do any better to me today. Thank you.
You've been great, mate. Your stories are phenomenal. Your guitars are absolutely out of this world. I love them. You're a very lucky man. You do know that.
I realize that.
Getting 001 of his collection, you're a very lucky man.
And in more ways than one.
The black one's very tempting because it's my favorite color.
Yeah, I heard about Danny for years living in Samui. I heard about him in Samui, and he was playing with my good friends up in Bangkok. And the truth is, man, it's a total honor to be in your presence and to be hanging with you. I want to thank you, Matthew, for hooking us up and getting to know each other, man. It's amazing.
And you're welcome here anytime. The door is always open. Always open. Just make sure you pay at the desk on the way in. Guys, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a great one. Thank you from Talking Heads. Thank you from Bobby. Thank you from Danny. And thank you from Mark and myself, Dave D. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Talking Heads podcast live from Pattaya, Thailand with your host, Dave D. Join us weekdays. Check out all the latest updates on talkingheads-podcast.com.